the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast.
All right.
Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
Now let me go to my script. All right. Welcome back to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast, your weekly, about weekly deep dive into the Whoniverse from Gallifrey to... What? Okay.
Maybe you should have read said script before reading said script.
Maybe I should have read the script that ChatGPT did for us. Yes. All right. Anyway, take 2. I'm keeping this in, so it's going to be fun either way. Welcome back to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast, your weekly deep dive into the Whoniverse from Gallifrey to Big Finish and beyond. I'm your host, Brett, and across the pond, we do have...
Liam, hello. You really can't say deep dive, can you?
No, I cannot. At least it's better than some of the, the 5 people you kill in Middlesbrough. And in today's episode, we are going to jump into Doctor Who Season 2 with Ncuti Gatwa and the explosive twist, the Rani reveal, and just what went on Earth or off of it, and Russell T Davies and...
everything, basically.
Everything,
Yeah, because a lot's happened, to put it mildly.
Yeah. And so we're looking to diving into the latest Big Finish news, as well as some of the other audio adventures, or not, who's to say? And then we might be discussing, probably most likely, the fan reaction and our reaction to Billie Piper's Buzz appearance in the last part of the episode. So whether you're diehard or classic fan, or somewhere in the middle, we've got something for you. So grab your sonic screwdrivers, mind the chameleon circuit, and let's talk Doctor Who. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That did not go according to plan, but anyway.
Does it ever?
No, it doesn't. But hey, we're having fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you and me have been messaging back and forth for probably about the past 2 weeks. And just like the intro, we're going to jump into season 2 because there is a lot that I took notes. Anybody who follows the podcast, I took notes and have thoughts. And I will tell you, the episode that I tried to not watch whatsoever, I have the most amount of notes for because I found the most amount of problems with. Actually, no, I take that back. The
finale?
The finale is the one that
yeah. Surprise.
I was just like, wait, that those notes are just keep going, that they're keeping on going. Whoa. And they're continuing to go. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interstellar Song Contest only takes up about 2 pages. The finale, if you want to talk about Wish World, we
have the time, so
yeah, we do. And yeah, it basically 5 pages long.
Yeah.
5 pages long.
No, I'm here for it. So
all right.
Yeah.
So we start off season 2. Well, actually, before I even begin season 2, I want your thoughts on one of the things that Russell T Davies discussed, revolving around how even though this is season 2 and we just, last year had season 1, he sees this more as a one consecutive season. And yeah, he said that a couple of times. He sees this as one consecutive season, even though it's season 1, season 2.
Clearly not one consecutive season.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I will give to him is in some of those season, what would that be, 6 of the Matt Smith era, where they cut it in season 6 or season 7 in half.
Yeah.
And so you kind of had a pre-finale and then you had another finale. But the pre-finale was nowhere near what we had at the very end of season 1. So I can't give that to him.
No. I mean, obviously we'll get onto season. We'll get onto season 2 in more detail. But even up to episode 6 of season 2, I was like, yeah, I really like where this is going. Ncuti has really come on as a Doctor. There's some amazing, stuff going forward. He's got darker. This is good. There's some new writers. I mean, story in the engine was amazing. Because it was so different. And it was nice to have some different blood right for Doctor Who and have a different, perspective and era and all that. So, and then it just hit the finale again, and
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I was looking at lots of Facebook groups, and a lot of people and it's really quite interesting because, again, I've done some solo podcasts, discussed it. You may have discussed it for many, many years, revolving around the viewership figures and stuff like that. And especially nowadays with how evolved everything is, you have more
allegedly
on-demand channels. But here's the thing that I find so interesting. And
people still hammer on about the viewing figures, even though they're really not relevant.
Well, I think there is some relevancy to the whole thing. And here's where I'm going to go off on. So, Jodie, you saw, I believe, started off with around what, like
10? No,
about 10, 11 million or
so.
Yeah,
it was 10 million.
Yeah,
because it was huge, and then it just fell off.
Every single episode dropped off. And now here is something that I don't think that you and me have ever brought up before. And that is, because people do binge watch. I'm not going to say that they don't. However, if they do binge watch it, wouldn't or shouldn't you see the same amount of figures in episode 1 pop up at the end of the last episode? It might fluctuate in between for the overnight or 7-day figures. But if people are binge watching, you are going to be caught up so that you can watch that final episode of the season. And it just seems
or even after. So once the finale's out, people are going, okay, I can now binge the whole season.
And
which I think people have been doing, because they've just released the 28-day figures for Lux, I think it was, and that was up by about 500,000 or something?
But here's the problem with doing that is I believe the BBC has had numbers for the 28 days and stuff like that in years past. And it's never been that big of a deal. And so
no. But then, and again, I think that just goes back to the problem with streaming, and
the
fact that the BBC is clearly underfunded. Hence the Disney deal. Well, I say hence the Disney deal. The lack of a Disney deal now.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I think that's that's the reason. But I don't know. It's a weird one. I don't really pay attention to the numbers because there's always going to be fans. I think again, because I've been watching a bit more of Thary's, and he said that people never they never talk about the soaps, do they? Go, oh well, EastEnders only got 5 million this week, or this episode, so people never discuss that element of it.
But
so I just think that if you've got a long running show with a fan base, which clearly a lot of shows do, Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, even soaps, there's always going to be fans. So, and because you've got this massive discrepancy of the fact that numbers are down, people aren't watching the show. But then when it comes to merchandise, like look at the collections, look at the Blu-ray collections of Doctor Who and the steel books. They go for absolutely loads of money.
But the question is are they more of a limited run now compared to the initial release and whatnot? I think that's something that has to be taken in consideration. Because here's the other thing that, and you did send me that theories thing, and because I like to do a little deep dive, because again, I am under the belief that, you have those YouTubers who want to laugh and mock and point fingers and say, ha, 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 ha.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, in my opinion, Theories who wants to say everything is fine. Why are you criticizing it?
To be fair, he kind of hasn't recently, though. He's like, he's like the show isn't in a good place, and he wasn't impressed with the finale, which I think, let's face it, 98% of the fandom were.
Yeah.
Because I was because I initially watched it and was like, yeah, wasn't that bad. But then I sat down and thought about it, and I was like, actually, no, what the hell? What have I just watched? Like, what's going on here?
Well, and here's the thing about the numbers that I noticed Theories never brings up, and it's also something that even the people that criticize the show never bring up. So I want to go back to the 60th anniversary specials, because I talked about this in a podcast, but I want to talk about you because maybe you will see or think something a different way than just what I am. So I'm just going to take special number 1 because it's generally the same across the board. Special number 1, 5.08 million.
Yeah.
The 7, that's the overnight. 7 plus 4 screens. So that, 7 days plus additional screens watching it on phones and tablets and all that other stuff. 7.61 million. So about 2.5 million watched
increase.
It increase from, overnight to that. And it's been generally the same across the board with, some fluctuation down and some fluctuation up for the specials, including the first Shooty Christmas special. However, we go and we look at season 1 and episode 1, the overnight is 2.6. So massively down. The 7 plus 4 is 4.01 million. Meaning that the discrepancy is 1.4 million people watched it. Meaning that 1.1 million people switched it off from the 60th specials and the first Christmas special from episode 1. And I think that is where the numbers, and that is where I think there is concern, and that is where the numbers do tell an actual story, regardless of, how we watch and consume media now, because 1.1 million people walked away. Then you look at the most recent season, episode 1, 2.0 million. So now they even dropped from season 1 to season 2 for episode 1. And they never were really able to reclaim what they got in the first season. And then overnight is 7 day. 7 plus 4 is 3.57 million. So you still have the consistency of 1.5 million people watching it on the 7 day plus 4 screens. However, you never got back those 1.1 million people. And additionally, you've also lost some viewers from season 1 to season 2. And that is where I think I've never heard anybody bring this up before, either pro using the numbers to say it's not that bad, to the people who are con who are laughing hysterically because of it. And I think that is where the information lies. And I think that's where RTD really needs to, if he's still going to be in charge of the show going forward, really making a focused look. Because again, did people come back because Tennant was the Doctor? And
Yeah,
what and was the initial Christmas special with Shooty, was that something that was just not as delightful for people, about 2 million plus people, to just walk away? And I think those are the questions that need to be looked at.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we talked numbers and stuff like that. So you know what? I'm happy. My inner nerd is delighted with that. So going through Robot Revolution, episode 1. Question for you. Because I think it is a legitimate question to consider, ponder, or whatnot, because some of the things I noticed during season 1 of RTD Part 2 is Russell T Davies is copying his homework from his first run. I feel as though there's so much similarities between Belinda and Martha Jones.
Belinda, yeah.
One is a doctor, the other one is a nurse. And whereas kind of like with Rose, you almost had the same kind of character profile. Ooh, engage, Mr. Sulu. You have a very similar makeup between Billie Piper and the lady who played Ruby Sunday. And I feel as though he almost is carbon copying a lot of his, first time through characters.
Well, I mean, wasn't there a rumor that went into detail and saying that, season 2 should have had Millie?
Yes.
Not
Belinda?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Well, and here's the other thing. I feel as though they really did not do a good job of really establishing Belinda Chandra's character throughout most of it. And then you have the Interstellar Contest, where she comes out and says he's not acting like himself. He's not acting like the Doctor. And that's episode 3. Or no, that's
6.
That's episode 6. And I was like, well, have you had, are we doing the whole, 13th Doctor thing where, they had a mystery season where they went to Carnival World and learned how to, do backflips and stuff like that? Like, is there some mystery adventures in there where she can actually claim that he is acting unlike himself? I'm not seeing that there has been really much time from episode to episode, kind of like, how they used to do it in the early days where one episode led directly to the next episode. And so for her to say he's not acting like himself, I found that kind of quite odd also.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I liked Varada in the role as Belinda. I thought she was a good, a good companion. Yeah, was the background of her a bit lacking, maybe, right? And especially again, given the finale, like, what was that?
Oh yeah, they put her in a room.
But I'm saying her backstory that we didn't see. Like, what was that? Like, I just don't understand that whole bait and switch, because that's what it was. It was clearly a bait and switch, and
we'll get to the finale there. But I just feel as though her character really wasn't well established. And unlike, the first time we meet Martha Jones, if I'm going to compare, Ruby to Rose, I need to, Martha with Belinda. And so the first time we see Martha, we are in a hospital. The first time we see Belinda, we are also in a hospital. However, the event occurred all in the hospital with Martha, whereas she just was getting off of a shift. And so we really don't know her expertise. And so at times there is a point where her expertise is called into being needed to be used. And in other times she's having doctors or other nurses, I believe, I want to say in the Interstellar Song Contest, she relinquished like assistance to somebody else. And it's just like, I thought you were, a nurse. Did RTD forget that aspect of everything? It's just.
I mean, you can argue that because obviously this was like way, way, way in the future. Technology and all that, and
I'll give it.
May have changed, but yeah. But no, I mean, I liked that's one thing that I liked about Belinda's character was that we actually saw that in the well. We saw the fact that she used her nursing stuff and that was a good thing, because it was like, okay, Ruby, what was Ruby's kind of thing? She was just a young 18-year-old who had no real kind of skills, just she was who wanting adventure.
Ruby, who was a mysterious girl who was supposed to be the miracle girl, kind of like Amy and Clara, and then you get the reveal where she's nothing.
Disney, I sense a massive bit of deja vu here. Anyone? No, just me. Okay.
The other thing about Robot Revolution is I found it very Sarah Jane Adventure like.
It was kind of, I thought it was very sort of paint by numbers.
Yeah. Well, you mean the robots were very comical. They they vaporized a cat in front of Belinda, and she had no. First off, they overused that CGI as well too. I found as though it was just, hey, look, we have money. Disney has given us money. We're going to do this vaporizing trick here. We're going to do this vaporizing trick right here. I just, and then I feel as though they wanted Alan, his reveal, to be the whole Cyberman type of a situation from, what is it, the Age of Steel or whatnot. And I didn't find Alan that, first off, villainous, and second off, like I did have a couple of problems with I
called him being the villain in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, hey, same here. The instant we saw that robot, I'm like, that's Alan right there. And I didn't feel as though he was villainous. And then the interesting thing,
I didn't. Yeah. Oh no, I didn't get that. But I thought Alan, himself was going to be the villain.
Oh, okay.
In some capacity.
Well, but here's the thing. So I feel as though they were like, okay, we're not using the Cyberman. We're going to do this, but we're also not going. We're going to have these, robots that are kind of clunky, and then you have that whole, they can't process every 9th word, which is
wow. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Just an odd thing, to the point where the Doctor even brings it up, and when he pulls back the layer of what Alan is actually saying, he's saying pain, hurt, stuff like that, and then they kill him, and the Doctor rejoices in his death. And I'm like, is that who the 15th Doctor is? Has the 15th Doctor channeled their 13th Doctor, where they enjoy killing people? Nobody else can do it, but we are going to rejoice in this person's death. And they made a joke. I don't even feel as though the 10th or 11th Doctor ever rejoiced in somebody's death. The 10th Doctor, was cold and was almost like, I'm sorry, but you put me to this and you gave me no choice. Whereas they make it a comical, whoops, he just got cleaned up off of the thing. We didn't even try to help him, even though he did say pain, hurt, and stuff like that. He was obviously in pain. We're just going to, move on. And then the other thing, there's two other things from the Robot Revolution I did not care for. The one was when the doctor scanned Belinda and she yelled at him, "Hey, you tested my DNA without permission." What? Sorry, I care. I'll, if you're drowning, do I need your permission to, administer CPR?
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
And then that one line, Planet of the Incels, and so I've heard some people talk about that whole line. I think the thing that annoyed me about that line is it wasn't singular, referring to Alan. It was plural, referring to every single man on this planet. And I'm like, is that who Belinda is? Because if that who she is, she's kind of detestable.
To be fair, though, people do say incels rather than incel a lot of the time, I've noticed. So it might just be a,
okay,
Freudian slip,
as
it were. But if you want incels, that's Conrad. But we'll get to that.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And then the tease at the very end of Robot Revolution is there's a time fracture. You have, the Eiffel Tower floating in space. You have a couple other things because the Earth is not there anymore.
Which is never, ever brought up again, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Just want to say.
I mean, the only thing that makes sense is a time fracture thing. But for the human population to have been able to continue to go and be able to be a part of the interstellar song contest and some of these other things, but the Earth was wiped away in May 24th of 2025. It's just like, this isn't adding up. Like,
how do we get into space by that point to then repopulate the different planets? And even then, which I didn't realize until you which I didn't even realize until you actually mentioned that. That really doesn't add up, does it? And then, so they don't know they're human. So then, what are they? What do they call themselves? If they don't know they're human, then what do they refer to themselves as?
Yeah. Well, and then you have the Interstellar Song Contest when you have Graham Norton, he is like, how does he have a soft light construct of himself where he's been dead and blown up in 2025, but yet the Interstellar Song Contest has his likeness and consciousness, and he's aware that he's dead? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And then you have Guy, who I'm guessing is a British personality or whatnot.
Ryland,
he survived. How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought that actually that Graham Norton that should have been the other way around. Like, you should have had Rylan as AI versus Graham Norton, because let's face it, Graham Norton is way more of a popular star and person than Ryland is. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Which is a bit strange.
So then episode 2, Lux. Now, I was really actually did not have that big of a problem with Lux. I think the interesting thing with this was Mr. Ring-a-Ding was channeling the God of Light. And it was one of those things where I know you were very excited, at least when we talked about about a year or so ago, how this is more fantasy and stuff like that. You had the Celestial Toymaker, who was a god. You had the Maestro, who just annoyed me, was some sort of god. You had Sutek, who was a god. So I'm like, okay, so maybe we're just kind of going through and doing some of these gods, except of course we had the stupid Al AI incel type of a thing. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? The Hanna-Barbera animation that they did when the Doctor and Belinda got pulled in, I thoroughly enjoyed. In fact, I wrote this down. I wish they would have had more fun with it, because shows like Supernatural, other shows that are like, quasi drama, thriller, fun, comedy or something like that, have always had a animated episode, or at least partially animated episode. And I feel as though they could have had so much fun with that, but then they just had to quickly end it and just be like, hey, remember that you're real. Remember that you're real. Think about something that you're real. And then, they start turning into 3D and stuff like that. I saw on some reviews that, they were annoyed at the whole racism thing. And the thing that I found the most interesting, because it was 1952 or whatnot, but the people were generally nice and towards both of them. It wasn't until they were in a fake world that stuff like that started happening. So, it wasn't, people wanted to claim, oh, we're throwing the race card, we're doing that. No, if they wanted to make it a problem, it would have been a problem in the real world, not in this fantasy thing that Mr. Ring-a-Ding threw him into.
And also as well, like you hate musicals, right? So, but I would have said that song that he sung was way more musical and musical-esque than the Interstellar Song Contest.
Oh,
definitely.
Definitely.
I got massive musical vibes from that song.
You saying that, I have no idea. I may have scrubbed ahead through that, because I don't have that song either in A, my memory, or B, in my notes. So well, I may have scrubbed ahead and just moved along, because I actually don't have anything on there. The interesting thing is, when they go to that fake world where they were talking to Whovians. Again, I think the best way to have concluded this entire season, and also maybe to some extent the 60th specials, is the villain to be from the Mind Robber. You had Mr. Ring-a-Ding, who threw them in a fictional place. They met possibly real Doctor Who fans. And I love that they were just talking about, oh, I really like blank. And every single one of them like blank. And then I love that the 15th Doctor's like, well, what about, the one with the singing elves? And they're like, no, blank. And then they're like, well, what about Boom? That was pretty fun. And like, blink. No. And so I thought that was hysterical, because, they actually, RTD did actually, think about what it would be like if the Doctor appeared in front of some actual Whovians. And I think
sort of
that
poked fun at himself and the current season, which I thought was. Oh, and also that plot line at the end with them, that never got resolved.
No, that really didn't get resolved either.
No, which, God damn it.
And then let's see, I put, and you might need to remind me, because I didn't go massively into this one, because I actually didn't mind Lux for the most part. Don't have any recollection of a song, but
there is one, yeah.
Okay.
He sings.
So I must. Oh, the Doctor sings?
No, Mr. Ring-a-Ding.
Oh, I don't remember that, so I must have scrubbed the head. So it says the Doctor heals himself with bi-regeneration energy left over. And I'm like, so that's a thing. I mean, granted, David Tennant did it because it was within like, a day or so of his regeneration. So now we're going to be able to use bi-regeneration to
bi-generation energy, yeah.
Heal ourselves. And I'm like, that's, I guess, a thing forever.
Well, that's what I thought initially, but it turns out it's not.
No.
So, which is
and then
good.
And then you have Mrs. Flood appearing in 1952, teasing a tease for the future that, they can't get back to, May 24th, 2025.
Mm.
And, it's almost one of those, well, wait, Mrs. Flood in the first season was kind of like that, was it Susan Twist or whatnot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so we're doing this again. And unlike season 1, Mrs. Flood is not breaking the fourth wall. Okay. I mean, the inconsistencies are constantly all over the place, where Mrs. Flood was constantly looking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall, which again would be a great, hey, by the way, mind robber situation. We're aware. This episode, seeing Whovians, hey, we're aware that you are
surely
in a
it should have been surely it should have been the other way around. It should have been that she wasn't breaking the fourth wall in season 1, and she's breaking the fourth wall in this episode because of what's going on.
Exactly. But the last time she broke the fourth wall was in season 1. She never did it in season 2.
Which I'm glad of, actually.
Well, I'm glad too, but it didn't make any sense to do it in the first place if you are not in the land of fiction. You do it in the land of fiction, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
And then episode 3 is The Well, which is quite interesting because I am about two minds about this episode. It was an actual one of those side episodes that we kind of, for the most part, left the problems that were occurring. We were just focused merely on the TARDIS arrives in a dangerous situation. Doctor cannot pilot the TARDIS because it's not taking him to where it's taking him to where he wants to. But that's what I kind of was hoping for. And I actually hope for going on to the future is the Doctor going back to randomly not being able to pilot the TARDIS so that we can go to alien worlds more constant than, Earth this time, Earth this time, Earth this time, Earth this time. And so, but I like that it was just kind of a fun adventure with massive questions, very atmospheric. My biggest complaint, and I've heard some fans were saying that this was the sequel to Midnight that never needed to occur. And me not being a fan of Midnight, I'm about two minds of this one. First, I didn't mind it, but I also would have preferred it not being connected to Midnight. Because I feel as though the entity in Midnight has changed differently, where it wanted to assume a form. Now it's just hiding behind you and killing anybody who happens to be at
midnight on this weird clock thing. Yeah. I mean, I like it because it was atmospheric and I liked the fact that you had what's her name? I'm blanking on her name. She's really good at the deaf actress.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I really like her. She's Rose Ayling Ellis, that's it. She's a good actress, and I was like, why can't we have her as a companion? Like that would have been awesome. But so part of me, I can see why they did it because she didn't want to kill off the entity, right? Which is fine. But it was a bit strange that it goes from inhabiting to being behind. But I suppose it shows you. I suppose it shows growth in the fact that it's able to live outside of a person now, though. So, no, I didn't mind it. I quite liked it. It was as you say, a nice, Doctor Who adventure that was a sort of a side thing, but it felt more Doctor Who than a lot of the other stuff has in a long time.
And that's why I like. Yeah, that's why I like Boom.
Tenth Doctor. Yeah, I love Boom. Boom was amazing.
So yeah, it wasn't bad. It was enjoyable, and it was a good, like, break. The only thing that you did have was, again, you had Mrs. Flood appearing in future garb or whatnot. And so, again, and it's quite interesting because, again, I've heard people say they're tired of RTD doing this. I think it's stupid or whatnot. But if you go back to season 1, you had Bad Wolf. Season 2, you had Torchwood, but I don't believe it really was constantly there wasn't a person to remind you.
No.
And then you had Saxon.
Harold Saxon.
Harold Saxon in the background. And then the thing that you had in season 4 was, the bees are missing, planets are disappearing or whatnot. But and then you had Rose occasionally make an appearance, using the dimension cannon, which, everybody's favorite. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then, but then it was almost like RTD took his idea that he used for Harold Saxon and then repeated it twice. Once with Susan Twist, once with Mrs. Flood.
Yeah. And not as successfully either, obviously. So
yeah. Episode 4, Lucky Day, you have, and there's some interesting things that I do have some issues with. This is an extreme Dr. Light episode, which, again, I'm all for. I don't mind Dr. Light episodes, but there's so many things that were odd about this. You have the landing in 2007, which takes place during the time in which RTD Part 1 era was. So the thing that I struggle with is, again, you have the Doctor meeting this basically abused child who ends up being Conrad. But you have also the 10th Doctor era alien invasions. You can even say you have, you had the 9th Doctor alien invasion and stuff like that up to that point in time. And then you have Conrad as a podcaster who is like looking for a blue box, similarly to Donna's grandfather, Wilf, but also trying to find and interview people, similarly to how
Clive guy.
Yeah, Clive
But
does.
surely, though, at that point, thinking about it, wouldn't he have forgotten the Doctor? Because didn't the Doctor wipe himself from the records in 11th Doctor era, which was post 2007?
When did he wipe? Oh, you're right. They did that with Clara, right?
No, they did. They did it with Amy. Remember, because he was there was like little minisodes that happened, and he was wiping himself from history and things because he he didn't want the Daleks to be able to remember him and stuff.
Well, I thought he did that with Clara because they did that with the Great Intelligence. Because remember, he went from wiping his existence so that none of these entities knew who he was. And then, Stephen Moffat promptly forgot that he did it.
Well, that was a bit I was referring to, yeah.
Okay.
So even then, if that's the case, then how does Conrad remember the Doctor in that sense?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
The biggest thing that I am getting so annoyed with RTD is like all and sundry, Tom, is every single Tom, Dick, and Harry working for UNIT?
Yeah, exactly.
Like literally everyone. And I'm like, are you that short-staffed that you'll just grab anybody now? oh, we don't care. We're gonna employ a 15-year-old, like again, Rose Noble. She's 15.
I am so glad I forgot that. I remember when that happened at Cross. I have not that in my notes, but yeah, you are correct.
Well, even younger, it's like that Lenny. Is it Lenny Rush?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Not Lenny. What's his name? Anyway, the kid on the scooter thing.
Yeah.
What are you doing as an organization? Like, you're an organization that fights aliens. You're putting kids in danger. You're okay with this. I don't really think the Brigadier would be okay with this. Like,
no.
What is going on with UNIT? I'm sorry, but UNIT has become the laughingstock of Doctor Who, because everyone seems to know about UNIT anyway.
Well, again, exactly. You have it from when, the third Doctor was working for UNIT, and I've seen this on some videos or whatnot. People are like, UNIT is in, special forces, unknown to most people or whatnot. However, in every single time that they show UNIT headquarters during the third Doctor era, every so often they will put, UNIT secret, top secret or something like that. And it's just like, oh wait, if is it a top secret if you are saying that this is UNIT headquarters top secret or something like that? You've kind of given away the secret part of it. But for it to be basically Avengers Tower in the heart of London, and they employ everybody, you know what, child labor be damned,
I'm just like, what is going on with it? I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I'm not trying to defend Chibnall here, but yeah, I can kind of see why UNIT got shut down. you know, like, somebody call social services or the CPS, because I couldn't see issues with this. There's massive issues.
It wasn't because they were overfunding. It was because of the child endangerment and slave wages that they were doing that they got closed down over.
Yeah. Oh God, and I don't know, just Kate's just turned into a bit of a laughingstock, isn't she?
Oh my word! I saw the trailer for the War Against the Land and the Sea, and
I was just like, meh.
Yeah,
meh. I don't really care. I mean, I'll watch it probably, but I like the trailer. Just okay. This is Doctor Who, is it?
I know. Well, and then
all right.
The thing is that girl a sea devil, or is Are we going to? How is it human? They had better be able to explain why it is human. There had better be, and Legion would be over the moon if this was some sort of Professor Zaroff type of a, underwater menace thing. You and me would both get a text from Legion is with him just going, yes. He's done it. Nothing in the world can stop him now.
Yeah, exactly. But apparently that thing is meant to be a sea devil, which apparently looks awful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and also this supposed relationship between Kate and Ibrahim. Like, really? Where did that come from? And secondly, who gives a crap?
Exactly.
Like, okay. What is this, Chibnall 2.0 with listening to the fans? Oh, we want Kate to have a boyfriend.
Well, it's like what was that? I want to say it was season 6 of Grantchester, where the vicar Will has a relationship with the lady who plays Yvonne, and you're just like, whoa. Yeah. You're like, okay, so it's
he's gonna die horribly.
30 I'm gonna guess 30-year age difference. If you love each other,
go for it.
Go for it. But yeah, He was seeing her secretly on the side until she realized, you know what, why don't you start dating people your own age? And so
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I like the fact though that we got some fallout with Ruby and then she's like, and she had sort of had PTSD from her adventures, which was, like, okay, we've got some character development, which we clearly didn't get the entire first season. And yet she's like, oh, bye, and
yeah,
gonna meet my mum now and whatever. Yeah, so that was nice.
Well, and then you have Conrad, who he gets imprisoned for his actions in unit headquarters, and he knows who Belinda Chandra is, and
which I don't like.
At the time, exactly, that never gets figured out too. And he tells the Doctor about Belinda Chandra, and then I guess that's what makes him want to pursue her in the robot revolution, which I guess okay. And then we have Mrs. Flood greet him in the prison because she's a prison guard, apparently. And I put in my notes, Mrs. Flood has now magically gone from somebody who breaks a fourth wall to somebody who is basically the, Susan Twist character, to now she is channeling her inner Missy, because she has that like missiness about her at the tail end of Lucky Day.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I at this point in time, I'm like, I really, really don't care. The next episode, The Story and the Engine. I struggled understanding this mostly. The one thing I thought was interesting is, and I also didn't particularly care for, is through this story, and only through this story, the Doctor remembers that they were, the Ruth Doctor. I thought those memories were locked away. Yeah. Like, what the heck?
But are they locked away though? Because I mean, clearly, obviously, this is post 13. So I
tell you? Sorry to interrupt. Can I tell you something that I was actually over the moon for? There was, and I believe I have it in my notes because I can't remember where it is. I think it probably is all about, I think it's the last 2 episodes of this season. But if, I'm going to talk about it right here, if what they showed in episode 8 of season 2 is correct, RTD canonized the Ruth Doctor after Jodie. Because when they showed all of the regenerations, and I can't remember which episode it was, but all the regenerations of the Doctor, obviously because, RTD does have all the fans' backs, did not show any of the faces from the Pyramids of Mars. Started off with Hartnell, went to, Patrick Troughton, onward. We got the War Doctor, we got 8th Doctor, War Doctor, 9th Doctor, 10th Doctor, 11th Doctor, 12th Doctor, 13th Doctor, Ruth Doctor, 14th Doctor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably just
it was a typo, but
inconsistency. But yeah, but I mean, I guess the 15th Doctor knows about no, I think the Doctor knows about the fugitive Doctor. I think the thing that's because I think that the thing that's been locked up is just the memories to do with their time in the division and all that and the whole timeless child thing. So I think that's what. But again, this is Chibnall, so who knows? He has obviously come out and said, and he told Joe Martin, "Oh yeah, you're meant to be canonically the very first Doctor who takes on the name of the Doctor." So she was told that she's the first, and in the Big Finish, Fugitive Doctor box set, in the very first story, the Daleks appear, and she's like, "Who are you?" Like literally, like, "Who are you? Never heard of you before in my life." And the Daleks recognize her as the Doctor, so it's clear that she's pre-Hartnell at this point. And this was, direction from Chibnall to Big Finish.
Well, don't particularly care for that one.
So,
well, it could have taken place at one of those times when when the 11th Doctor purged. Well, okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
I really liked the story in the Engine. It was nice to, like I say, it was nice to go somewhere different. It's nice to go to Africa, nice to go to Nigeria. We've never been there before. Nice to get some story, or some stories and some culture about Nigeria in Doctor Who. I want them to do this more often, like go to different places. Yeah. New Zealand, Nigeria, Namibia, different parts of Africa.
No,
India, go there. Australia,
totally agree. I like that 13th Doctor episode where it was the that Indian
Demons of the Punjab.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind that, except for didn't it end with the weird talking frog? I can't remember.
No, that was it takes you away. The thing that let Demons of the Punjab down was the weird time assassins who weren't assassins anymore.
Yeah.
If that had been a pure historical, I would have gone, props to you, go for it. This was an amazing episode, but it didn't. So I want to see more episodes from different cultures. Can we please get away from Britain?
I would also love it if Disney, since this did air on Disney Plus, instead of redoing The Little Mermaid or redoing Snow White or whatnot, how about you use other cultures' stories, other cultures' fantasies and tales, and
tell those stories.
Tell those stories instead of retelling the same story, just with different actors in the role.
Yeah, exactly.
Also,
and for me, the story in Engine felt very much RTD, sort of one, because you had the weird, you had the kind of space web spider, a Nancy thing that was kind of very sort of RTD1, that was kind of cool, so it was in two places. I like that. That was kind of fun. And yeah, well, the question: how the hell did Belinda know about Poppy?
That's according to her, I believe in the story and the Engine, she had a vision of Poppy.
No, she didn't have a vision. She turned up there. She was there.
Okay, just 1 second, because I do have. Let's see. Where do I have it? I have. Okay, so it says Poppy was one of the babies from the baby
Space
station
babies.
Beta. Okay, she met the 15th Doctor and Ruby in the year 21506 and wrongly thought that they were her parents. She was a captain of the baby crew. She later helped fight off the boogeymen to rescue Eric. She then joined her crew in being pushed to Mono Karun, a new planet where they could find refuge and care. Belinda Chandra later saw Poppy in Lagos, Nigeria in 2019, but she mysteriously vanished. Belinda brought it up to the Doctor, but he dismissed it as being a side effect of the barber.
Oh, okay. I thought she was in Lagos. I thought that was interesting. Okay.
Nope.
Still weird though, because she never met Poppy,
Uh-huh.
right? And obviously this is obviously before the massive reshoots. So at this point, Poppy was not gonna be what Poppy turned out to be. So how the hell did like that? It was quite and makes even way less sense because of the reshoots.
Oh, there's so many things that make less sense probably
Yeah.
because of the reshoots.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah. Susan. I'm so annoyed about Susan.
There was something that one of the Doctor reviews picked up on it. Mel was like, what was it, walking on down the street or whatnot when she remembered, who she was. Now, she had her red hair, but it wasn't in Mel characteristic perm hair. She goes and hops on her Segway or whatnot, bursts into unit office moments later, hair completely permed.
I'm guessing she was going that fast. The the hair curled. Either that, right? Or what happened was she met Jeremy Clarkson in the lift in that small car, and they had a bit of a scrap, and she kicked him out of the lift, and I don't know, Mel being badass. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah. So episode 6, I guess, which is the
okay. So
Stellar Song Contest.
Also, I just wanted to bring something up that I thought was kind of interesting. The story in the engine. Okay. Episode 1, multiple people died.
Yep.
Episode 2, multiple people died. Episode 3, multiple people died. Episode 4, multiple people died. Episode 5, nobody died except the Nazi.
Anansi, yeah.
Yeah. I find that interesting. I find that interesting because it's just like, okay, we can kill whoever we want in episode 1. Episode 2, we can kill whoever we want, doesn't matter. Episode 3, we can kill whoever we want, doesn't matter. Episode 4, we don't. If we kill anybody, they're black. Better not. Like I just thought it was interesting. Not something I'm nitpicking over, not saying that is what I just think it's kind of like, again, it goes to RTD. I need to change the sonic screwdriver because people are going to confuse, basically Harry Potter's wand for a gun. Okay. All right.
Okay.
All of, everybody who sees people in a wheelchair are going to assume that they're evil because the mad scientist Davros, who happens to be in a wheelchair, but, it's not a
wheelchair, it's a life support chair. There's a bit of a big difference. Anyway, but yeah.
And then with this one, spoilers for later or whatnot, because now you're never going to not see an Indian person not being this because the previous master, Sasha Juan, what heritage is he?
Southeast Asian. Yeah.
Okay. Lady who played the regenerated Ronnie?
Southeast Asian.
Interesting. According to RTD, all Southeast Asians evil.
But oh no, we can't. But we can't kill off a black person. Hell no. But the Indians are fair game, right? Okay.
It's one of the
and again, and the thing is before we get on to the Enceladus Cell contest and whatever, and talk about the finale, I really think the wrong Rani got killed. I really liked Archie Punjabi as the Rani. I felt she really did have the mannerisms and really inhabit kind of Kate O'Mara kind of vibes. I really like her, and now that the Rani's been sorted and it sounds like Big Finish have got the rights back. Can you believe this? Right? What absolute complete fuck up from Big Finish. They've apparently been they've been doing this since almost 8 years.
Mhm.
5 to 8 years, they've been trying to contact the people
The
to be
Pippin
able to
Jane
use the
Spaker
Rani.
estate.
They were using the wrong address.
No way.
Yeah, they were using the wrong address. Like, it's like, why didn't you go to the BBC and double check? Yeah, I know. So we could have had the Rani in stories for the past 8 years, and I'm like, for Christ's sake.
Wow.
So, I'm glad that they've got the rights to the Rani, because
Mhm.
I would love to see Archie Punjabi on audio. That would be amazing.
Well, not only that, but you could pair up with Sabine, whoever who played the Rani for the main range at one point in
Siobhan
time.
Redmond.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do the two Ranis properly
Mm-hmm.
on audio. But just contacting the wrong address.
Oops.
Jesus.
All right.
Anyway.
Interstellar Song Contest. Okay, I have at least 2 pages of notes on this.
Mm-hmm.
So, keep in mind, I did not want to watch this. I went, and you know this because we were messaging each other. I watched the last 5 minutes of it, and that was all I was going to give it. And then you're like, no, you need to watch it. And I'm like, no. And you're whatever. We went back and forth or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I watched it. I watched it very slowly because I found so many things very cringy about this episode. So we start off with a host being defrosted, who is an actual British reality host.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we've already talked about this. How is this possible? Because the Earth blew up, disappeared, whatever. I guess just before it happened, I don't know, actually don't care. Mrs. Flood happens to be at the song contest too. So, of course, RTD is struggling to create a new way for revealing the villain of his part 2 run, because again, this is very similar to what occurred in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
The contest being held inside a bubble in a station's orbit. Okay, kind of interesting. Yeah, exactly. It was just like, okay, well, at least it's not Space Station 5, which couldn't exist because humans probably, built that one.
Went around, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Flood is stalking the Doctor at this point, making sure that his Vindicator is primed and ready to go. And I find this odd, as she is not, again, as I may mention before, not breaking the fourth wall. So again, very inconsistent. Villain shows up, phase 1. The Hellion overrides the guard robots and uses them for his evil, nefarious purposes, which is killing the humans outside the broadcast booth. But when the robots and the Hellion arrives, he has the robots merely escort people at gunpoint outside of the broadcast booth. Interesting. Just odd. Except he keeps his assistant, who is his partner, and also the main person in charge of broadcasting, because they needed her handprint. Okay. After they use her handprint, what good is she? Why is she not dead? Answer: because she is a little person and they can't kill somebody. Similarly, maybe to the, yes, the story in the engine. And I'm like, okay, sure. Why not? Go ahead. Be very inconsistent. We murdered so many people outside, escorting people to safety inside, even though we will find out that they will be dead anyway, probably, until they're not. The Hellion also uses previously recorded dress rehearsal in order to dupe billions who are watching this interstellar song contest at home, because Rylan was not there for dress rehearsal because he only shows up for the main thing or whatnot. The lady is doing everybody's line, which is not a dress rehearsal. Either somebody needed to be piping in his lines to her, or somebody needed to be standing in for Rylan. But for her to be doing the entire thing is not a dress rehearsal. I looked up the definition for dress rehearsal, and the dress rehearsal is the final rehearsal of a live show, which everybody does. And in fact, even in, and I looked this up too, even in stupid reality shows, they always do a dress rehearsal for the reality stars beforehand also. That checks out. What doesn't check out is at times during the dress rehearsal, you see people's hands waving and this and that, cheering or whatnot. That is not a dress rehearsal. That is called the actual shot of the live event. So again, massive inconsistencies. What's going on? Don't care. Whatever. Hellion dude pulls a switch that removes the bubble from the space station stage. The Doctor at this time is trying to do something really quickly. And in normal fashion, and again, my apologies for comparing the 15th Doctor to the 10th or 11th Doctor, but in those instances, they would be saying, and this is where I don't feel as though Belinda knows the Doctor, because he is just off the side sonicking something. He is not saying, both those doctors, even the 9th Doctor would have been like, hey, by the way, I'm going to do this. I'm fearful of this happening or whatnot, and I'm going to be extending this bubble thing. Nope. He ignores Belinda the entire time while they're in this life or death situation. The bubble turns off. He gets sucked up and starts freezing, which at this point in time, I believe once he dethaws, because they can't kill him, he should be going into a bi-regeneration because he's dead. Now, we don't find out a little while later why that's not a thing. But again, had this been the 11th or 10th Doctor, there would have been some verbiage explaining the situation, not being it revealed, at minute 40 in the episode. So then, the Doctor, the main character of the show, we know that he starts doing a Princess Leia thing from, your favorite trilogy, the most recent Disney trilogy, where he unthaws himself because he thinks of his granddaughter, Susan, which for some reason unthaws him from being frozen, because I guess that's part of bi-regeneration too. Finds a, confetti launcher. That's accurate. But he is yelling and screaming in the near vacuum of space. Now we find out that it's not actually the vacuum of space, but you know what? He extended it, but he froze. You're still in some sort of vacuum, which means that you should not be screaming. Rylan, who also decides to give us a play-by-play, going, oh, I'm freezing again, not this time. And then he freezes or whatnot again. Then we see all these people most likely dead because they're being sucked up and screaming because the Mavity shield is still on. So again, that's a word. And I guess the only reason why we can do that is because it's not a gravity shield, it's a Mavity shield. So because, words don't matter anymore and we make stuff up, that's a thing. The Doctor is, again, unthaws himself because Susan is calling to him in his mind from the TARDIS console room. We find that the Doctor is, extended the Mavity shield, which he should have explained, but he didn't really care because he didn't mind bothering telling his companion. Hellion Guy plans to send a signal to the show contest, killing everybody watching the song contest, which is actually probably what I actually assume would occur to people who watch reality TV.
And he also does a callback to Bad Wolf because he talks about an alpha wave thing. So that was an interesting callback.
So then the Doctor gives a very un-Doctor-like speech about finding and killing the Hellion Guy, throwing him out the airlock and watching him die, which means Paul Cornell and his representation of the 13th Doctor, who is the best Doctor who has ever lived. Because besides, murdering all the Centauran Cybermen and Daleks and a whole bunch of other people that she didn't mind killing, the spiders and stuff like that, besides that, she never gave a speech in which she was going to be proud about murdering all these people.
No, she was just a hypocrite. At least the 15th Doctor was consistent.
So, and then the Doctor tortures the Hellion guy, like the Dalek from Dalek, and then the Spider Lady from the Bride, whatever. I can't think of what that's called. And then he stops, and he was stopped. Again, RTD struggling to be original, stops because in both instances, both Rose and both Donna tell him to stop.
No, it was Susan, wasn't it?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no. I'm saying Rose told him to stop in
Oh, right. Yeah.
the Dalek, and Donna told him to stop in the Runaway Bride, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if Susan told him to stop. I thought it was Belinda.
No, it was Susan.
Anyway, and now he stops, but supposedly there is ice now in the Doctor's heart, and it will always be there because he is the last of the Time Lord. But, it's not because he was experimented on by Tech-Tayun. It's not because that Rose is in Pete's world, and it's not because that it was because he was slightly frozen and unthawed because of the thought of his granddaughter, Susan. Hundreds of thousands of people who eventually get unthawed one at a time. Nobody ever dies. They get brought back to life one at a time because the Mavity Shield does this. And even though the Doctor has different biology or whatnot, it's fine because it's fine. Then we have the cloister bells ringing at the very end of and then the TARDIS goes a little bit red on the inside. We get Mrs. Flood dethawed. Let's see, what did I put? We had Mrs. Flood get dethawed, and she starts getting ready to make a speech during her regeneration, which means the 15th Doctor should have regenerated, because if Mrs. Flood got dethawed, so did the 15th Doctor, meaning that his bioregeneration would have started. But because inconsistencies are a thing with especially RTD Part 2, 15th Doctor doesn't regenerate, but Mrs. Flood does because of being partially frozen and whatnot. And then we get, thanks to the Celestial Toymaker, we get a regenerated Ronnie, because apparently Mrs. Flood is the Ronnie, but she immediately becomes subservient like an Igor stooge to the new Ronnie, because that's never been a thing. Usually it is the older one that gets the the accolades and is the stronger personality and compared to the newer one.
But the new Ronnie is the original. How does that work?
Yeah,
like, what's going on there? Like, how can you be the definite article, but come from?
I guess the only and here's the thing that also doesn't make sense. The Celestial Toymaker did this to the Doctor. I even looked.
No. What? Because they talk about it in the finale.
I know, and it still doesn't make any sense, because bioregeneration, I looked it up. Bioregeneration was a very rare variant of regeneration for the Doctor, believed to be a myth until the 15th Doctor's reincarnation from the 14th to the 15th. And instead of a one incarnation directly changing into the next one, as seen in previous ones, biogeneration is caused because of new incarnation to split from the previous one, allowing them to both exist simultaneously. And that said, while fighting against the Toymaker, the 15th Doctor, having been gravely wounded by a galvanic beam fired directly at him by the Toymaker to initiate a regeneration, but as a result, it actually caused a bioregeneration that continued to exist as his incarnation, down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it is for his incarnation, but because of inconsistencies, it is now a thing that is happening to all people, which we find out in the part 2, which again still doesn't make any sense.
I mean, well, it does, it doesn't, in the sense of, bi-generation happens because it was to do with the DNA, the DNA bomb, the master.
No, because the only reason why because the DNA bomb, which again is a ludicrous explanation for the whole thing, because when you think about the DNA bomb, what does
And
that
also,
do?
if the and get this right, if the DNA bomb happens and they all die, right? And well, not all die, but yeah. And to stop the species from dying out, that causes bi-generation. Why then was Gallifrey burning?
Well, not only that, but why did the master say he kept all the bodies? So again,
well, I mean, that's
the only no. Because here's the thing, they said that this was because they're sterile. No, it never was a thing until this moment right here during not Wish World, during the Reality War, where the whole Time Lord physiology changed. The only Time Lord physiology change was the Ronnie, because she a half a second before the reality or the DNA genetic bomb went off, she altered her DNA to not be impacted by it. So she missed it because she altered her DNA.
So then she surely shouldn't have bi-generated.
Correct.
To be fair, the whole sterile thing though has been brought up in Big Finish before, so that has been a thing in lore for quite a while. In that sense,
but I mean, to say that
on TV, sure.
But to say that it occurred because of the Masters thing, because it was never a thing before, but because of the genetic bomb, which prevented it from them being sterile, or that caused them to be sterile, because that's what I got. I got that this genetic bomb was basically what caused them to be sterile, which was the necessity of now the bi-regeneration. The bi-regeneration, again, only came into effect because of the Celestial Toymaker. So, again, within trying to, curb a lot of early error,
No, the way I see it, actually, if you think about it, so the DNA bomb thing happened, right, which the Master did, causing all the other Time Lords to bi-generate, right? The Doctor wasn't there. So my only thinking is the Toymaker got wind of this and screwed around with the Doctor's timeline, then basically causing him to then bi-generate.
See, but that's a lot
that's the only thing that makes sense.
Well,
because
yeah, you're right. That's the only thing that makes sense. But again, at the same exact time, it's never explained, and I feel as though the lack of explanation is just constant one different, plot hole, as well as inconsistency within the Doctor Who lore and canon. And it's almost like I'm going to make this up because it sounds cool, not that I actually have, even if you wanted to forget the past 26 years or the classic era or whatnot, this is inconsistent in RTD Part 2's run, not to mention RTD Part 1's run. And so there is lots of, well, if we look at it like this and slant our eyes like this and we go cross-eyed just slightly, it will make sense. I find this season more, for all the harm that the Timeless Child did, at least there is this weird era of mystery that Chibnall was too cowardly to try to figure out and explain, so he left it for somebody else. RTD is trying to explain so much stuff, but within all the things that he has, initiated in season 2, he's actually had so much discontinuity from not only season 1 of his second run, but season 2, and then with even in episode from episode.
Mm.
And the only thing that you can say is, well, I guess it was the Celestial Toy Maker. That's just lazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess again, leave it to be finished to sort out, because they're going to have to at some point.
Uh-huh.
So
all right. So Wish World. The actual Ronnie, I guess, goes to 1865 Bavaria and finds a baby, a son, in fact, of the seventh son of the seventh son. So this is a rare instance. And the character, and again, here's the other thing. If you are such a fan of the Ronnie, I feel as though you owe it to, let's just say, Disney Plus fans. Not even if you really want it to take off in the States. Why are you not explaining who the Ronnie is? Why are you letting people having to go to Wikipedia or whatnot to learn who it is? Because I know the Ronnie is somebody who is into science. However,
she's a biochemist. She's an immoral biochemist.
Exactly. However, we have her go back in time because this is a magic wish baby. That doesn't sound like a
Ronnie thing.
Ronnie thing. And from the very beginning, I'm like, this we just lost all inconsistencies. But you know what? At least we have even the further inconsistencies with his Omega, which just makes.
And the name
yeah.
Derek. What? As a god name?
Mm-hmm. So now we have a world. The Doctor and Belinda wake up, married couple, looks like 1950s, but it is 2025. Nobody has any doubt, and it is probably not allowed to think anything outside of the truth. We have giant skeleton dinosaurs walking around downtown London because nobody can question it, because it's always been that way. Conrad is the narrator, and he is narrating about Doctor Who and Time Lords on the TV, as there's also a other survivor. One other survivor. He says one. I rewound it. One other survivor. So Master's dead, according to RTD. So we have a time lady. Monk won't be making an appearance because we have a time lady. So RTD has really painted the Time Lords and such in a massive corner. And I feel as though it's quite interesting because he intentionally originally did the Time War and painted himself in the corner because he wanted to just solely focus on the Doctor, which I thought was a very clever idea. You had, Matt Smith's 11th and Peter Capaldi's 12th trying to find Gallifrey, and then for Chris Chibnall to, go around breaking all the toys and just murdering them all or whatnot. And so, but now the Master doesn't exist and the Monk doesn't exist because, according to the narration, there's only one Time Lord, and it is a Time Lady. Conrad is seemingly enslaving the world to be his perfect idealistic world, but he has to constantly be focusing on keeping his wish so that, the world continues to exist the way he wants to. All of what the Ronnie is planning is to return someone, Omega, to the universe and destroy the Earth because that is what is required. We get Rogue sending a message from hell because apparently, that 5-minute, that they existed together on TV, or not on TV, in season 1 was even a quicker love story than Leela and Adrid from,
Andred, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wow, 15th Doctor has a quicker love story than Leela. Didn't know that was possible. Not Hebe finds an iPad from the previous world, which is odd, and I feel as though it does a disservice to herself as well as anybody in unit, because couldn't that device be created because of the ingenuity of who not Hebe is, or who some of these people are, rather than, hey, we found this thing, it doesn't look like it should belong here, but maybe we could use it to hack the system. Then we have the Rani is working for Omega, which again doesn't make sense to her character because she's a scientist. The Rani is setting the Doctor to, and then at the very end, because I don't really have many notes for the first Wish world because I just found it just odd. The Rani is setting the Doctor to plummet to his death because, and here's the thing, because that's the cliffhanger we were left on. And with the Timeless Child and by regeneration, this cliffhanger should mean nothing to anybody whatsoever. Reality War, episode 8, we have Anita from the Time Hotel, who I was probably one of the best characters that RTD has created. Actually, I think that was Stephen Moffat.
It was, yeah.
And, through his appearance, actually finds, let's see, what does it say? So Anita from the Time Hotel saves the Doctor, and through this appearance, the 15th Doctor actually gets his first on-screen appearance with the Daleks. He's never met a single Dalek or a Cyberman. We had fake Cybermen from the Robot Revolution or whatnot, but he's never actually met a Dalek before. And again, I find this sad. The 15th Doctor, they say Omega is the most feared Time Lord. Okay. Omega, creator of the Time Lords. I thought that was Tech-Te-Yun, according to Chris Chibnall, but whatever, we'll just move on. 15th Doctor triumphantly shows Belinda himself in a triumphant musical introduction as he stares at the camera wearing, in my opinion, silly overalls, which is kind of like a silly overall dress combo. And when he does this, I actually can't take anything he does seriously. I just think it's odd. I don't know what you think, but because I don't know if they described.
They didn't describe it, no.
Okay. And so now we understand that the walking dinosaurs are actually from the Underverse, which again goes against to where, it gets brought up to something that the 14th Doctor said. I understand that. But again, where is Omega? He is in in an antimatter universe, if memory serves me right.
Yeah.
So we're now changing lores. Okay. Mel gives us a summary of who the Rani is, that she's cold, indifferent to pain and morality, which again makes sense, except this whole wish baby thing. And also trying to be subservient to Omega. It'd be more. Never mind. Just doesn't add up. Then we get to see how the Rani survived the Masters murdering every Time Lord in existence. And this, again, doesn't make sense. She said she saw it coming. She took and flipped her DNA a second before the genetic explosion. And the Master who used the bodies of Time Lords to create the Cyberlords, Cybermasters, again, now are able to regenerate. And which body did the Master decide to use? Was it one? Was it two? Was it a mixture of both? I don't know. Don't really care. We get info on Omega, the original sin of the Time Lords, according to the 15th Doctor, cast out from Gallifrey. Really? I thought he and Rassilon were working together to create time travel, and he got sucked into the antimatter universe, not cast out from Gallifrey, which is interesting because...
Unless he was talking about the Three Doctors, maybe.
But even in the Three Doctors, he was... Oh, you're right. If they are saying that he got cast out in the Three Doctors, but it just said the original sin of the Time Lords. I don't understand that.
No, I don't know.
Anyway. It says legend. It says that they bound him and banished him because he is insane. And that's why he was exiled to the Underverse. All right. So at this point in time, I paused and I went to ChatGPT and asked the following question. So here is ChatGPT doing the homework that RTD couldn't be bothered to. And I asked the question, Omega and Rassilon are two of the most important mythological history figures in Doctor Who lore. What are their stories? And so it says, Omega, the stellar engineer who helped develop time travel and created the power source for time manipulation, a black hole called the Eye of Harmony. To achieve this, he launched a star into a supernova, collapsing it into a black hole, which became the energy core for the Time Lord's TARDISes. Omega was thought to have died during this process, but he actually became trapped in an antimatter universe isolated from reality, driven mad by his isolation, not because he was actually, the original sin and evil. He later tried to return to the real universe, becoming the villain and facing off against multiple incarnations of the Doctor. That is what ChatGPT gave me and popped up within, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
How, RTD, have you altered Omega so badly and so poorly? There are no words.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Let's see. All right, then back to watching the episode. It says that we get the facts that Time Lords are sterile and can't procreate. When? Explain, I thought. Then the Doctor says that this is what happened with by regeneration. It was a life force trying to anything to survive. That is not what we learned in the giggle, though. And again, within his own era, RTD needs consistency, or we need inconsistency, but he doesn't give it. We also get a zero room that appears in Unit Tower, not a TARDIS. In the Unit Tower.
That's Susan Twist built. Like, how the hell?
Uh-huh.
How? Zero Room is very much Time Lord technology. How the hell can this random human build one?
And so it says it now operating completely different from established canon. I looked it up. As originally, the Zero Room, a specialized chamber within the TARDIS, used for rapid healing and regeneration. It is designed to be a tranquil space isolated from the rest of the universe, ideal for neurological healing and potentially other types of physical and psychic restoration. The Zero Room can also be taken on the go, meaning it is portable healing environment. The only reason why it was on the go is because the TARDIS Zero Room, I believe, broke in Castrovalva, and the Fifth Doctor created a Zero Cabinet. So now the Zero Room is a thing beyond time and space and will extend outside of reality, and the Zero Room will keep Poppy safe because she actually never existed as either the 15th Doctor or Belinda's child ever. She was a baby from Space Babies, but we'll find out later that she always was Belinda's child because reasons. I continue hating the Avengers Unit Tower existing in the heart of downtown London, and the addition of the steering wheel within the tower is just silly.
What?
Yeah, there's a steering wheel in the Unit Tower that they were using to turn it this way and that way.
Okay.
It came out of a James Bond-ish type of desk thing, and Kate was telling, I can't remember who Kate had steering it, but I'm like, okay, well, that's a thing. Omega, a Time Lord being pulled out of the Underverse, but because it's a land of legend, Omega has become his own legend and is now a large skeleton baby creature.
What?
And his first lines of the show, he says he's going to be the god of time with Time Lords to feast upon. And then he eats the new Ronnie. But wouldn't she just regenerate in his stomach? Nah. Poppy remains alive, even though she never existed in this time, and her creation seems to be nonsensical. Also, the Doctor, instead of trying to find... Oh, yeah. So anyway, long story short, Omega,
vanishes.
Everything's fine. And
he was on the screen for less time than the even suit tech was, which
exactly
sucked.
And so at minute 40, we have 28 minutes left of this episode. And
these are where the reshoots happened.
And then instead of the Doctor returning the Wish Baby back to its actual parents, the Doctor gives it to Ruby's mom and grandmother to raise. Like, there are two parents that are traumatically, one of them did, dissolve into flowers and stuff like that. But again, and the kids are ducks, but wouldn't everything cease and having been undone? And that's why they were worried that, Poppy was going to be undone because she never existed in this time and space. And so, yeah, Ruby's grandma and mom are now the Wish Baby's parents because that makes sense in the Doctor Who world. The Doctor is being told by Ruby that the kid never existed, that this Poppy didn't exist, and in the Wish world was a lie and needs to exist because she is a real person and cannot cease to exist. But the Doctor fought for her to exist, so he has to do the same for someone that never existed in this time or space. Again, so nonsensical. The Doctor sees images on the TARDIS screen of each Doctor in order's existence, and it can go on from this point forward that the 13th Doctor, then the 13th Doctor, then the 14th Doctor is now the Ruth Doctor is not slotted between. This is what I'm taking from RTD because, again, what we learned from Chris Chibnall is what is on TV, what is seen on TV is actually canon. That's why we had to do the stupid Timeless Child thing, because it was seen on TV. I saw on TV that it went 13th Doctor, Ruth Doctor, 14th Doctor, which means that is canon. It cannot be pre-Hartnell. It cannot be slotted between 2nd and 3rd Doctor because, according to Chibnall's rules, it has to have been done on TV. So let it be written. So let it be done. The 15th Doctor sacrifices himself to save a child that never existed, which is weird. And then the 13th Doctor shows up because she allowed so many to die along the way. Whatever. 15th Doctor said that to the 13th that no chance of bi-regeneration. And her reply is no chance of what? Meaning bi-regeneration was never a thing that happened down the line. RTD's canon is now cracked within his own series. He even had a special that you cannot see if you don't live in the UK, but everybody else knows that bi-regeneration is a thing, and there's a memory TARDIS which appeared in last, finale that should be, crazy witch magic to anybody who doesn't live in the UK, but whatever. Anyway, although such events happen to the Ronnie, let's see about this masters, they're all blah, blah, blah. Okay, the Doctor shatters reality using his regeneration energy and ends up in Belinda's yard, and then the Doctor talks to a star that is Joy, and then regenerates into Rose Tyler, at which point in time we go to the credits and we see Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, and introducing Billie Piper. Yeah. That is how season 2. Those are all my notes. Those are all my thoughts. Those are all my questions on season 2. What say you?
I mean, I like the fact that the 15th Doctor basically gave shade to the 13th and was like, because he's like, oh, I love you. And she's like, oh, I don't say that sort of thing. He's like, yeah, and you never will either.
And you never.
I'm like, wow. I mean, yeah, and I mean, she was on screen for what, 2-3 minutes?
Yeah.
Or was it me, or was she the most doctorish she'd ever been?
Yes.
In her entire run on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was kind of nice in that sense.
Well,
I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but
well, I mean, also, for the first time, she wasn't directed or under the direction of Chris Chibnall. So, I mean, that might have something to do with it too.
Yeah. But again, like, so reshoots, but like, what? So you couldn't have got Carol Ann Ford to do some reshoots to have Susan appear? Maybe? Like, really? I don't know. Just, so you've done reshoots because shooters decide to leave potentially, and what, you forget about Carol Ann?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck, guys?
Yep.
I mean, if Billie Piper is the 16th Doctor, right, and they confirm it, which, if the show does continue, because let's face it, at this point, the show is pretty much going on hiatus, right? So if it does continue, and they continue with this storyline, then if she is the 16th Doctor, then I'm sorry, but desperation completely smacks of desperation, and just nah.
Oh yeah.
Nah, I'm done if that's the case.
Well, and so many people on multimedia stuff, you have Facebook, you have Twitter, so many people are really upset about this, casting this, because in all actuality, you could say that the 14th Doctor was oh crap, the show is in trouble. We need a popular, familiar face.
Yeah.
Then again, we did at the very beginning of this episode to discuss the viewing figures. I gave you my thoughts and about, some of the things that I do believe that there is needing to change or whatnot. Yeah. And then you have Billie Piper showing up. Again, it reeks of desperation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if she's the bad wolf, right, and the bad wolf incarnation, that could be interesting. I can get behind that completely, right? Because there's nothing to say that the bad wolf entity got destroyed.
Well, and the interesting thing about everything, though, and that's an interesting perspective. I'm curious if RTD told Billie Piper something, because I'm not sure if it was on Instagram or on Twitter, but Billie Piper's account posted.
She just says a rose is
a rose is a rose is a rose, which means to me, I read that as somehow the Doctor regenerated into a human, and now are we going to tag team the 14th Doctor and Rose together in the near future?
Which would be weird, because if that's the case, then it's Doctor having feelings for the Doctor. Right?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I didn't think it could get any more cringe with,
oh, come on,
Rose from the Dimension Canon falling in love with her male counterpart, which was a bit...
That was hysterical, if you ask me. But hey, come on. Let's not get super judgy. I mean, let's remember this, one of the best sequels of all time, Doctor Who, The Spy Who Shagged Me. You had number 2 in bed with number 2. And he turned, one of my favorite lines is, he's like, technically, it's not cheating.
I don't know. Like I said, and my thinking is that she's not Rose, because if you notice in the very last scene, they very much do focus on this. The regeneration energy goes into the TARDIS console, and then she shifts. But you don't see the regeneration. So I mean, if you can pull it up and play it again, and you'll see what I mean. Like, you don't see the regeneration. It sort of whites out, and as I say, the energy goes into the TARDIS console. So my hope is that the bad wolf entity has been pulled from the TARDIS console for whatever reason and has taken over the Doctor's body for a while for whatever reason. But if Rose is the 16th Doctor, then nah.
Yeah.
Well, a step too far.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, RTD, I feel, should step back as showrunner. He should be a script editor, but let other people write the show at this point.
Oh, definitely.
Because just wow.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing. It's annoying because I feel, again, he and again, we're not going to get a resolution to Millie's storyline or Belinda's now because they've both left the show.
Mm-hmm.
Which I didn't know, which I don't think has been made that public.
It hasn't.
And I just feel that, again, the Belinda, Ruby, and the second but first original Rani have been, and Ncuti actually have all been done so dirty, because I was really liking the 15th Doctor's development. He was, I felt very more. He was a lot more Doctorish than season 1. But I just feel they've been done such a bad turn. And again, I blame partially Disney for this, because they couldn't make the decision on if they wanted to renew the contracts or not. So yes, I think there's a two-pronged problem here, and that is, one, RTD and the writing, and which I never thought I would say, and because of, well, one, the reshoots have obviously taken place because of obviously Ncuti leaving, which again, because he's now an up-and-coming actor and he's got other jobs to do and doesn't want to stick around for Doctor Who. So that's Disney's fault. So yeah, RTD and Disney. Well, and the reshoots do not resolve, and well, in fact, they only enhance the bad plot lines, because they don't resolve anything or make anything make sense.
Yeah, and here's what I will say. So I'm not one to, cover for Disney, apologize for Disney. I think the only thing that you can actually lay on Disney's lap is their waffling, their non-committal for a series 3.
Yeah.
And the needing to possibly, you have Ncuti basically being handcuffed to the role for an undisclosed amount of time, at which point in time he's probably taking this job, that job. And so he just needs to be freed from the contract. And that's, that's on Disney. Yeah. But as to the stories, again, we just barely went through all of season 2 and all the inconsistencies that I thought, all the questions that I had revolving around it. And you can say, yeah, maybe the last 20 minutes of the reality war is a mess because of the reshoots for Ncuti. What is with all of, the Omega stuff, the Susan Twist, or the the Mrs. Flood breaking the fourth wall stuff from the first season, but doesn't
And
do it in the second
also-
season. There's
and-
so
and-
many.
and- And also, Ruby, right? Again, never explained. Why it snows around her. And then secondly, why does Maestro turn to her and go, "Oh, you're wrong"?
Yeah.
Like, what's that about? That's never been explained. See, I listened to a YouTube video that Paul Mars put up, interestingly. And he said it would have made way more sense if it turned out that Ruby was going to be... Oh, and again, don't get me wrong, and don't get me started on the resolution for Conrad, right? He's a complete incel, clearly, yeah? Obvious a complete incel and bigot and racist and whatever and all that. And yet Ruby wished him to be have a happy life, which then turns out to be him working in a restaurant as a dishwasher.
Yeah.
Like, what? Okay, if that was anyone else, I can guarantee they would have turned around and gone, "Nah, fuck you, mate. See you later." Like, they would not have wished him to be happy. But yeah, back to the point that I feel that they should have gone down. Ruby should have been the god of wishes, right? Had no idea about it. And, have her travel with the Doctor. And it turns out that, you find out that she is one of the Pantheon but doesn't know about it. Because it would explain the snow. It would explain Maestro going to her, "Oh, you're wrong." It should have been the Rani who dropped off Ruby on Ruby Road. Because, the cloak. Because again, if you look back, it would have made sense for her to have come from Bavaria in 1845 or whatever, because she was wearing a cloak then on a horse. It would have made sense if that was her at the end of Ruby Road. And again, you could have had her sort of pointing to the sign and going, "Yeah, call her that," like a bit of a wink to the audience. That would have made way more sense than Ruby being a normal person, but yet managing to give birth to a kid that then got shot from her vagina into the 31st century or something, somehow. That's miraculous, granted. But, what? I'll forgive Doctor Who for a lot, right? Because I like the show and I'm a massive fan. But the more you sit there and think about these past 2 seasons, well, actually, no, sorry, these past 5 seasons, because I'm including Chris Chibnall in this, the more the show just does not make sense. Which I never thought I would say, and there's always been a level of, whimsy, maybe a little bit of stupidity, in regards to some of the explanations. That's fine. But what?
But when it's throughout the entire season, actually, you could almost say kind of within 2 seasons. Like, I'd love to go through and rewatch series 1 again, series 2, to see if there is. The only thing I can see, and I see it in that Doctor Who magazine that you sent me through our group chat. The only thing that I could see is I believe, and I've said this consistently for a long time, I'm nothing but consistent, is I believe Stephen Moffat was caught off guard by Matt Smith leaving after only 3 seasons. I feel as though, and again, I've said this numerous times, that there was obviously the first season story arc. There's the second season story arc, the third season story arc, but I feel as though that there was meant to be, and if you start watching series 5, there, and then there's, I feel as though that there is an underlying overall, probably 4-season total story arc that would conclude at the very end. And I think that pops its head up from the Mummy and the Orient Express, which was supposed to be a 11th Doctor story, because we have the Gus, who is
which
never...
ironically, RTD actually references in that article.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, what?
And
like,
I think...
that's the one thing you reference?
Yeah.
Like, what? That doesn't make sense. Again, what? Are you just pulling things out of your ass now? Like, to say, oh, who's the boss? Who knows? It could be Gus. It could have been, I don't know, the Atraxi from the 11th Hour. I mean, come on. I don't know.
Yeah.
What?
But I mean, there's so many more things. And the other thing that would make the war between the land and the sea actually more meaningful is if it made sense of more of the unit shutdown years, or if it would expound on episodes within RTD's Part 2's second run. But it just seems like this is this is what unit does while the Doctor's away type of a thing, which is, again, kind of like what Big Finish does with the unit box set, which is totally fine. But it just seems to be we're using these characters because we can.
And I mean, what happened to Osgood? Where did she go to?
Ah, that's a good question.
Here's one good silver lining. At least Mavity is no longer a thing because reality's been put back.
Oh, that's a good thing.
But I don't know. It's a shame. I mean, I'm going to be interested to see what Big Finish do with the 13th Doctor's era.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and just frustrating, which is a shame because I like I said, I like Millie Gibson, I like Shruti Gatwa, I like Varada Sethu, or Sethu, they're all really good actresses, along with Archie Punjabi. And get this as well. So Johnny went to a convention and met Anita Dobson, who played Mrs. Flood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, I really like, you was the Rani." And get this, she turned around to him and said, "Oh, that was good. Yeah, who is the Rani, by the way?" So he then explained to her who the Rani was, and she was like, "Oh, really? I wish I could have played somebody clever."
Whoa.
Yeah.
Which
so not only did RTD not explain to her who the hell the Rani was, made her, I suppose, look to be kind of stupid.
And we look at what Chris Chibnall did with the with Sacha Dhawan, where you have that one season on Blu-ray where they're doing Behind the Sofa, and he admits, "I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have taken my character this way. I wish I could have done this." And it's just, oh, wow. You really were a disservice to, all these Doctor Who fans and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know. Just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel that Doctor Who's in a weird place at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really nearly know. Well, it needs a change, and it needs some new blood. Again, Straczynski, Michael J. Straczynski, who did Babylon 5, wants to write write for Doctor Who. I'm well up for that.
Oh yeah.
I'm
up for Joe Hill. I'm up for Joe Hill to write for Doctor Who.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with non-British writers writing for Doctor Who. I mean, again, they proved it with, I don't know if Inuit Ellams, I think, I suppose Inuit Ellams is living over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that technically Michael Straczynski is living over here, then why the hell not? He's got a British visa, he can live over here, so go for it. If you want someone to write for Doctor Who, he's up for it, he's willing. Go for it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that should be a thing. But I think definitely the show needs to go on hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
Really consider what's going on, where it's going, the direction, what needs to be done. I think massive changes need to be done to the writers' room.
Yes.
Plot lines going forward. And again, I'm so annoyed that Rani didn't bring back the Time Lords.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we just bring them back, please? It's just twice now, and they've just not come back. And
can I tell you my favorite title that I came up with for a podcast episode? It is Hiatus, My Dear, and Not a Moment Too Soon.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's true. It's true.
I had to pat myself on the back for that one. I was very impressed with it.
Yeah. So, I guess we should move on from season 2 to
You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.